Alright, good evening. You are watching Primetime News on TV1. I'm Michaela Fernando, and joining us via Zoom is sign language interpreter Brian De Cruz. Before we head into more news in detail, here are a look at your headlines for tonight.
Revelations that Sri Lanka paid an American CIA agent $6.5 million to boost Sri Lanka's image in the US. Low-income earning families to receive 5,000 rupee allowance tomorrow. Sri Lanka Freedom Party stance on the government. Roshana Besundara breaks record during Park Strait swim.
Main sponsor.
Look at your top story. Leading aircraftsman Roshan Abesundara established an Asian and a Sri Lankan record as he completed his swim across the Park Strait today. Abesundara swam from Talaimana to Dhanushkodi in India and then returned to Talaimana this morning. Leading aircraftsman Roshan Abesundara established a record today by swimming across the Park Strait while promoting the message of protecting oceans. Abesundara swam from Talaimana to Dhanushkodi in India in 10 hours and 31 minutes while setting a Sri Lankan record for this feat. The leading aircraftsman had swum back from Dhanushkodi to Sri Lanka in 17 hours, 48 minutes and 43 seconds, setting an Asian record in the process. The distance of the entire swim was 59.3 kilometers. Abesundara's feat today surpassed a previous Asian record set by Kumar Anandan in 1971. In 1971, Kumar Anandan had swum the total distance of 59.3 kilometers in 51 hours. But Roshan Abesundara had established the feat by clocking just 28 hours, 19 minutes and 43 seconds for the entire swim.
I feel delighted today. I had set a target of swimming from Sri Lanka to India and then back to the country. This is a milestone for me. I am happy that I was able to establish this record. The commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force assisted me in achieving this feat. Several other officers in the Air Force also motivated me to achieve this goal. Having broken the record for this challenge, I wish to encourage people across the world to avoid polluting oceans using polythene and plastics. That is the message that I have to give to this world after swimming for 28 hours. At the same time, I also hope to pave the way for the innovation of dustbins that would encourage the proper disposal of plastic and polythene.
The family members of Roshan Abesundara were present as he swam back to the shores of Sri Lanka.
We lived in a coastal area. He has been interested in swimming in the sea for a long time. He joined the Air Force. Since then, he had the aspiration of establishing a world record. I and my husband supported him in achieving that. He is deeply committed to protecting the environment and the oceans from plastic and polythene. He wanted to set a record and give out this message to the people of Sri Lanka. I then realized that I too should provide him with the fullest support in achieving that. I have been supporting him since then.
The newly built alms-giving hall Avasa Mandirya and the meditation garden of the Sri Alan Mathineyaramaya in Kirulapana was declared open today under the auspices of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Visiting the Sri Alan Mathineyaramaya in Kirulapana, the President took part in an almsgiving after engaging in religious observances. The almsgiving was held in line with the birthday celebrations of Venerable Uduwe Dhammaloka Thera and his mother's birthday, which will fall tomorrow. The Mahasangha, including the Anunayakas of the Malvatu, Asgiri and Amarapula Churavanshika Maha chapter, also took part in the almsgiving. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was presented with a souvenir by the Anunayaka of the Malvatu chapter, Most Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Vimala Dhammathera.
Main sponsor.
A look at more local news. An investigative report by the Wall Street Journal has revealed that US lobbyist Imad Zuberi, who was paid by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to boost Sri Lanka's image in the United States, was an secret agent of the CIA.
Who is Imad Zuberi?
Zuberi was commissioned by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in 2014 to boost Sri Lanka's image in the United States.
How much was paid to Zuberi to lobby for Sri Lanka?
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka agreed to pay Zuberi $6.5 million. This is approximately 1.31 billion rupees.
What happened to Imad Zuberi in the United States?
In February 2021, Imad Zuberi was sentenced to 12 years in prison after pleading guilty to tax evasion, foreign influence peddling and campaign finance violations. The payments made by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to Zuberi to boost Sri Lanka's image were done without any approval from the cabinet or parliament. The Wall Street Journal, one of the oldest and most popular newspapers in the US, citing legal documents from the proceedings against Imad Zuberi, reported that he was a mole of the US Central Intelligence Agency,
who paid Sri Lankan taxpayers' money to a CIA agent in the US.
The payment was done by the governor of the central bank at the time and the current state minister of finance and capital markets and public enterprise reform, Ajit Nivad Cabral.
Is this the only deal with Sri Lanka that Zuberi was involved in?
No. According to a report on the Wall Street Journal, a former handler of CIA agent Zuberi had convinced Sri Lanka to buy a maritime surveillance system that could keep watch on a swath of the Indian Ocean. This was done at a time in which the US government was concerned about Chinese submarine attacks.
මේ කිසිදු ගනුදෙනුවක් සඳහා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ අනුමැතිය හෝ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ
There has been no cabinet approval or approval from parliament for these dealings. Ajit Nivad Cabral had spent the money of Sri Lankan taxpayers' money arbitrarily without any form of transparency. I wrote this in 2014 and the details behind these dealings have been revealed in the US and the person responsible for these dealings in the US has been punished. This is a clear case of money laundering. So we would like to question President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who came down to Sri Lanka from the US, to do justice as to what will be the punishment meted out to the governor of the central bank, Ajit Nivad Cabral, who is responsible for this transaction in Sri Lanka. The details of these dealings have been revealed to the world. The government of good governance stood by idling while these things happened and they were defeated. Now Ajit Nivad Cabral is a nationalist parliamentarian. We are concerned that even if a case is filed against Ajit Nivad Cabral in court, a commission will be appointed subsequently to acquit him of all his crimes.
News First had continuously reported on this incident in the past. Shouldn't the law bring to book the person who paid billions to a secret agent of the CIA without the approval of the cabinet or parliament of Sri Lanka?
In local news, the Prime Minister's office has issued a circular on the 5,000 rupee allowance that is to be distributed among low-income earning families due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has decided to offer a one-time allowance of 5,000 rupees to families that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to their monthly allowance. In a circular sent to district and divisional secretaries, the Prime Minister's office said that families would be offered the one-time allowance under 7 categories. This includes Samruddhi beneficiary families, low-income earning families, families comprising recipients of the elders allowance, families comprising kidney patients who receive allowances, families comprising centenarians who receive the elders allowance, and families that have filed appeals and are eligible under one of these categories. The Prime Minister's office noted that some of the beneficiary families that comprise individuals eligible for the elders allowance will receive only a 5,000 rupee allowance.
The government has declared a holiday on the 12th of this month. The decision to pay this allowance was made on the 10th. If they made such a decision on the 10th and then decided to declare a public holiday on the 12th, the employees of these banks will be severely inconvenienced. The Samruddhi Director General must issue a circular on disbursing the relief allowance once these funds are remitted to commercial banks. As employees of Samruddhi banks, we will have to cash out these funds using checks. That will require time. Therefore, we will not be able to complete the disbursement of these funds on time. The officers cannot simply hand out these allowances. We require a certain time period to implement this. When the Samruddhi Bank begins realizing these checks, the people will receive the funds only at around 1 p.m. That is the general procedure. If the people are inconvenienced due to this, the President and Prime Minister will have to pay attention to this matter. If we go ahead with these decisions, it will disrupt the operations in the grassroots. This is not successful. We would require a certain time period to implement this program. We are trying to complete this program before the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. We believe that we will be able to implement this. We will try our best to ensure that all beneficiaries receive the 5,000 rupee allowance without any delay. We will have to provide this to more than 3 million families. This is not an issue for us. Samurdhi Banks had incurred an expenditure of 27 billion rupees to provide the 5,000 rupee allowance during the previous occasion. They have asked for 900,000 rupees to be given to each Samurdhi Bank. Against such a backdrop, Samurdhi Banks have been asked to issue a 5,000 rupee allowance, although these banks have not been provided with the required funds. Therefore, if Samurdhi Banks continue to operate in this situation, then these banks will be heading into a financial crisis. The relevant circular or guidelines have not been prepared to issue the 5,000 rupee allowance. The government only remembered about the festival celebrated by the majority Sinhala and Tamil people yesterday. Until yesterday, they did not care about the prices of goods and the inconvenience faced by the people. A notice was issued the day before yesterday declaring the 12th as a public holiday. Once this notice was issued, what will happen regarding the 5,000 rupee allowance? Not knowing the problem, the general public will break down the doors of the Samurdhi banks demanding the money. On one hand, the government officers are inconvenienced, and on the other hand, the valuable time of the people waiting for the 5,000 rupee allowance will be wasted. The government will not care since they have already given out the announcement.
There is a reason as to why we wanted to issue this at the last moment. We know that there are various problems in the society. Low-income earning families face several issues. Whether they like it or not, many people pawn their jewelry in exchange for money to celebrate the New Year. We have taken steps to implement this since yesterday. The President's objective is to provide it as a bonus to the people in addition to the arrangements that they have made for the New Year.
Trade Minister Bandula Gunawardena has said that legal action will be taken against individuals who level absurd allegations against the government. He made these remarks during an event in Homagama today.
When we began issuing relief food packages, several individuals leveled multiple absurd allegations against the exercise. A complaint has been filed with the Slave Island Police over this matter. The police are on the hunt for those who made these statements. They will be arrested using a warrant and then asked to comment on their statements to the media. I have asked my lawyers to demand 500 million rupees as damages for the allegations leveled against relief food packs.
Oil
cakes are prepared for the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Therefore, let us consider the cost a person will have to bear to prepare oil cakes. The cost of green gram has risen to more than 1,200 rupees. 100 grams of turmeric powder costs more than 750 rupees. We don't know whether coconut oil is harmful or not. That costs around 800 rupees. The coconut costs between 90 and 100 rupees. Rice costs between 100 and 110 rupees. Sugar costs around 125 rupees. Just imagine the cost a person will have to incur to prepare oil cakes. Such a situation has never occurred in history. We are wondering whether the ministers in this country who make hilarious statements that 3 kilos of rice are sufficient for 3 weeks understand the people's problems.
The
Samya Janabala Vedya had organized a demonstration in Kegaul today to oppose the increase in the prices of goods and the importation of carcinogenic coconut oil to the country. The general public is struggling to meet their daily essentials. People are struggling to purchase turmeric to prepare cookies this season. Even green gram is too expensive to prepare oil cakes. This is how the government's decisions have paved the way for the people to suffer this New Year season. Meanwhile, the United National Party staged a demonstration in Mahara today, opposing the price increase of essential goods. The demonstration was organized by the United National Party.
We cannot prepare our New Year sweetmeats this year. We have no oil to prepare any food items. The government has supplied the general public with carcinogenic coconut oil. The government has proved that it has failed.
Meanwhile, State Minister Nimal Lanza attended an opening ceremony of a carpeted road in the Gantalawa area in Trincomalee today. A sum of 21.81 million rupees has been spent on the road, which runs up to 1.02 kilometers. A group of officials from the Road Development Authority were also present at the event. According to the official plan, the road runs from Ananda's residence to Herat's residence. We will be constructing roads running up to 25,000 kilometers. We have constructed 13,000 kilometers. We hope to construct 1,000 bridges under a program to construct 5,000 bridges as well. Last year we couldn't commence these projects due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't have power in Parliament as well. We have commenced work as we have power now, and because the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic is reducing.
දවසට මේ බඩගින්න හිටියේ හාල් නැතුව මේ ඒ විබර කොටාගෙන ඇවිල්ලා තිබ්බ හාල් මල්ල සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම අරගෙන ඇවිල්ලා අලියා මෙතන ඉඳලා තමයි කෑවේ. කාලා මගේ දරුවන්ට කන්න තිබ්බේ නැහැ ඊයේ දවස් මම අරක්කගෙන බතල වගේ තම්බලා ගෙනලා දුන්නා. කන්න. කාලා තමයි ඊයේ දවස් මේ හිටියේ හාල් තිබ්බේ නැහැ කන්න.
While politicians continue to exchange diverse views over their struggle for power, innocent parents in Polonnaruwa are seeking for nothing but meals to fulfill the hunger of their children.
When Newsfirst visited the Mahasenpura village in Velikanda, we witnessed how a mother and a father of 3 were gathering paddy that had been scattered all over the place. Last night, a wild elephant had encroached into their garden in search of food. The wild elephant had broken a wall and taken away the paddy that had been stored for the new year. Meanwhile, the villagers of Mahasenpura Velikanda staged a protest today, demanding a permanent solution for the ever-growing human-elephant conflict. They urged the authorities to construct an electric fence to protect their village from wild elephants. We are not expecting much from the government. How are we to live if they eat everything in the house? Provide us with the relief to live and engage in farming peacefully. Big businesses are cultivating coconut and kaju cultivations while driving the elephants to the village.
Meanwhile, the Secretary to the State Ministry of Wildlife, Major General Palita Fernando, has said that the gazette declaring a managed wild elephant reserve in Hambantota has been sent to the Department of Government Printing. He noted that the gazette would be published by the department in due course. Meanwhile, Wildlife Director General Chandana Surya Bandara has also said that the gazette has been sent for printing following the approval of the relevant minister. However, government printer Gangani Liyanage told Newsfirst that such a gazette has not been received by the Department of Government Printing.
The struggle launched by farmers of Valsabugala demanding authorities to gazette a managed wild elephant reserve in Hambantota entered its 85th day today. A group including veteran artists visited the area yesterday to pledge their support to the farmers. Veteran actor Chandrasoma Binduheva and actress Deepani Silva were among those present. Irrigation Minister Chamal Rajapaksa was in the opposition previously. At a time when he had no political support and power, we were the individuals who campaigned on behalf of him to garner votes from the villagers. When the president was elected and when ministries were being allocated, I visited Chamal Rajapaksa's home in Tissa Maharama with 23 members of my farmers' organization. When we were discussing the problems of wild elephants in Surya Vaba, he asked us whether we are experts and ordered us to leave. We then realized his true political nature. Therefore, it was up to me to fulfill the promises that were made to the villagers. I don't think that the people of this country can continue to tolerate this. Can we allow this to happen if such issues persist for the benefit of one or a few individuals? One can assume that this is irrelevant to be discussed by us, but we too are people who consume rice daily.
They have been unable to simply issue a gazette. We have a president who has the power to issue gazettes at any time and revoke them. Isn't the president taking the problems of the villagers into account? Doesn't he have the moral right to visit and inquire into these problems?
The Satyagraha launched by farmers of Mahiyangania in solidarity with the farmers of Walsapugala who are demanding a managed wild elephant reserve entered its 26th day today. Members of the Socialist Youth Wing joined the Satyagraha last evening. The president of the All Ceylon Farmers Federation, Namal Karunaratne, was present at the occasion. Those in the government are focused on the internal rifts rather than listening to these problems. They import carcinogenic coconut oil to protect those who commit scams using import taxes. At the same time, they are acting to protect those linked to the scams and are focused on protecting the bond scam culprits instead of punishing them. When ministers in the same cabinet are hurling accusations against each other, can they solve the country's problems? The Satyagraha launched by farmers of Galgamua demanding a solution to the human-elephant conflict entered its 27th day today. At the same time, farmers of Medawachia are staging a Satyagraha for the 24th day, demanding a scientific solution to the human-elephant conflict.
In more local news, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa visited former Finance Minister Ronnie DeMille at his residence for his 96th birthday today.
Opposition leaders Sajith Premadasa and Samagijana Balavegi MP Dr. Harsha De Silva visited former Finance Minister Ronnie DeMille today. Ronnie DeMille had served as Sri Lanka's Finance Minister in 1977.
From the time you came back, I have been watching your career very closely, as I did even earlier. I think the only hope for Sri Lanka to make a comeback, I may be using the wrong word, but I think you know the meaning. For Sri Lanka to make a comeback is if you can get the whole thing going under your control and the control of policies that you represent. That's the only hope for Sri Lanka. I will tell that openly to anybody. I have already told so many people that the only hope for Sri Lanka, really Sri Lanka is in a dire situation just because things were done very properly in the old days and the foundations were good. We have still been able to exist, but I am very fearful at times about what will happen in this entire part of the world, because number of governments in this part of the world seem to be messing up some of their policies. I think, I'm not trying to flatter you, you are our only hope at the moment. You are our only hope at the moment. I can't see anybody else just at the moment who can do this and save Sri Lanka from the total mess that it will come into if it does not reform its ways and its approach to life and approach to things.
As of now, a total of 580 people have died in fatal road accidents since the 1st of January 2021. Police spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana said 5 deaths were reported due to road traffic accidents reported in the 24-hour window that ended this morning. Meanwhile, this video of a vehicle travelling on the Southern Expressway violating traffic laws has been circulating widely on social media.
According to the police media spokesperson, investigations regarding the vehicle that had violated traffic laws on the expressway is currently underway. He further added that the vehicle had been driven recklessly. Investigations have revealed that the owner of the vehicle is a resident of Kandy.
Still in local news, Sri Lanka is reported to be eyeing government-to-government agreements to purchase crude oil on long-term credit.
Chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Sumit Vijay told local media that Sri Lanka is eyeing at agreements with oil-producing nations. This includes Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, the United Arab Emirates and Russia. The objective of the agreements would be to import crude oil at concessionary rates using a special quota system under a long-term payment scheme. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation chairman had noted that Sri Lanka is still paying for the oil imports for the first quarter of 2020. In March last year, the government had set up a fuel price stabilization fund to ease the process of settling the debt of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. This was after announcing that local fuel prices will not be reduced in the country despite a sharp drop in oil prices in the global market. Although the government had aimed at receiving 200 billion rupees as revenue, the fund had only received an income amounting to between 50 and 60 billion rupees.
This government in March 2020 announced it was going to create a stabilization fund, and it said that it expects in 6 months to create a surplus of rupees 200 billion, and that surplus would be able to absorb all the losses and then after they have made the gains. Now we know that that policy has completely failed because the fund has zero in it.
However much the government is trying to say everything is hunky-dory, there's nothing to worry, we will have, so much of dollars flowing in terms of investments and all that, that's pie in the sky, right? The reality is what we are facing. We have gone a-begging. We saw the minister and pretty much all of the senior central bank staff, gone with a bowl to Oman just the other day. So that's your reality. We've asked in the Bank of Bangladesh for a swap. Now there is your reality.
Meanwhile, central bank figures indicate that Sri Lanka's foreign currency reserves had declined to $3.6 billion in March from $7.1 billion the same month last year. Against such a backdrop, the central bank has extended the special deposit account program that was initially due to run for only 6 months. The program has now been extended by 2 years, with pressure continuing to mount on the rupee.
In April 2020, the central bank announced that it had launched special deposit accounts to attract foreign currency to the country. The facility allows individuals to place deposits in foreign currency equivalent up to $15,000 by opening special deposit accounts in local banks. Locals, dual citizens and foreigners were allowed to place their deposits in these accounts for a minimum of 6 months and a maximum period of 1 year. 6-month deposits are offered an additional interest of 1% and 12-month deposits an additional interest of 2%. However, 6-month deposits that were not withdrawn on time were not offered the additional interest. But in a latest directive this week, the central bank said that 6-month deposits can be retained for an additional 6-month period and will be offered the 1% additional interest.
In more local news, the Legends Run for Health program was held at the Independence Square in Colombo today. The event was organized by Legends 96.6 of MBC Networks Private Limited.
The Legends Run for Health Marathon got underway with the participation of nearly 100 participants in Colombo.
Everyone for taking part.
Nidravira Singha, the Group Director of Electronic Media Business of the Capital Maharaja Group, and Moksha Pires, the channel head of Legends 966, were present at the event. The awards for the winners and the first runners-up in the male and female categories were presented following the marathon.
Group Director Electronic Media from Capital Maharaja Group.
The Kukuleganga Speed Hill Climb motocross event concluded today. Sirasa TV and TV1 were the media sponsors of the event.
The Sri Lanka Army Motorsports Committee and the Motorsports Association was launched yesterday. The event was held at the premises of the Kukuleganga Army Camp. 75 riders and 117 drivers had taken part in the event. Army Commander General Shavendra Silva attended the event today.
We didn't allow because the country's situation in regard to COVID, although we are the best, one of the best countries in handling COVID, with that we didn't want to take a risk. That is why we want to give our spectators a chance over the TV to watch. Thanks for Sirasa that they came forward, and we have given this opportunity for the riders and drivers, because usually in April, this is the period of the year that they are waiting to have such a races. So we have given that opportunity right now.
Iran Gunawardena was adjudged the best rider of the tournament, while Ashan Silva won the award for best driver.
And that is a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For all these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. Take care and good night.